The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. For them, it's war. And for them, nothing at all is out of bounds. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation. Believe me, have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The establishment and their media enablers will control over this nation through means that are very well known. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe, and morally deformed. They will attack you. They will slander you. They will seek to destroy your career and your family. They will seek to destroy everything about you, including your reputation. They will lie, and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever's necessary. Our great civilization, here in America and across the civilized world, has come upon a moment of reckoning. But the central base of world political power is right here in America. And it is our corrupt political establishment that is the greatest power behind the efforts at radical globalization and the disenfranchisement of working people. Their financial resources are virtually unlimited. Their political resources are unlimited. Their media resources are unmatched. And most importantly, the depths of their immorality is absolutely unlimited.
Politics and religion. This is all the equivalent of enemy propaganda rolled across the picket line. Lay down, GI, lay down, GI. We saw it all through the 20th century. And now in the 21st century, it's time to stand up and realize that we should not allow ourselves to be crammed into this blackmail. We should not submit to dehumanization. I don't know about you, but I'm concerned with what's happening in this world. I'm concerned with the structure. I'm concerned with the systems of control. Those that control my life and those that seek to control it even more. I want freedom. That's what I want. And that's what Jason wants. We have got to realize the condition on a mass scale. Start challenging this corporate slave state. The 21st century is going to be a new century. Not the century of slavery, not the century of lies, individualism, classism, and statism, and all the rest of those control. It's going to be the age of humankind standing up for something pure, something right. Oh, bunch of garbage, liberal, Democrat, conservative, Republican. It's all there to control two sides of the same coin. Two management teams getting for control, the CEO job of slavery and society. The truth is out there in front of you. They are lying. I'm sick of it. And I'm not going to take a bite out of it. Think about me. We're going to win this thing. Humankind is too good. We're not a bunch of underachievers. We're going to stand up and we're going to be human beings. We're going to empower about the real thing. And that matters.
Hi guys, welcome to the show.
Refuses to submit.
good to have you. I'm going to be blushing on my end. At some point, we are going to figure out how to do live streams when we have interviews as well online. So.
Welcome. Liberty Revolt Media, selling golden nuggets of information, real currency used for thousands of years, unlike those fraudulent reserve notes.
I think that there's a lot of validity to just hopium as the backing of your currency. Okay. I think that the standard for a currency should just be whoever can print the most gets to be king.
Absolutely. Nothing bad can come of that. Guys, welcome to the second hour of the Liberty Revolt. You can find the live stream, facebook.com/Liberty Revolt Media. Join us in the conversation. Guys, should we just start our show with a caller? Because we do have a caller.
Oh, let's go. Let's start it with the caller.
Caller, state your name, where you are calling from, and what's on your mind.
Hey, it's Mickey. I'm on Earth.
Hey, Mickey.
How's that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man. Go for it. What's the question? How you doing today?
Okay. Well, when you think back on history and just look on who's on our Federal Reserve notes, they were all against the Federal Reserve style fractional reserve banking.
Yep.
But here's a couple quotes for you. This one's from Mayor Amschel Rothschild, said, "Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I don't care who writes the laws." And then his wife, just shortly after that, was quoted saying, "If my sons did not want wars, there would be none." And that's Gutley Schnapper, Mayor Amschel's wife.
Wow. Well, that's kind of terrifying.
But that is very terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, just slightly.
That's a little something Mr. Arnold taught us in high school in Estes, or middle school.
Wait, you actually a
Oh,
public
one
school
more
teacher?
thing.
Yeah.
I was listening yesterday, and you guys were talking about what they're putting on the roads. Yeah, it's called magnesium chloride, and they had to stop putting it on the roads from Allen's Park up into Wyoming in the mountains because it was killing the bighorns. So they just put salt up there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that's my truck from Estes Park. Every single bolt is torched off because it grew up with the ice and some salt up in Estes Park. So.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much for the call, Mickey. Yeah, that's that right there, folks. The Rothschild said it themselves. Oh, God, we're going to get banned.
And our money, all of our presidents were anti-Federal Reserve. Right on.
Yeah, that is definitely the fun.
Putting Andrew Jackson on
a bill.
It's like spit in the face. It's like, oh, hey, Andrew Jackson, you did everything you could to destroy the central bank here. Let us put you on our currency now.
And remember when there were talks about ending the first bank of the United States, was it not quoted that if we did not reissue the charter for the bank, that we would find ourselves in the most disastrous war?
Yeah, it's very weird how that works. I mean,
no, this whole system is meant to control you. This whole system is meant to plunge you into a currency system in which the people at the top can willy-nilly print themselves money and transfer it via inflation, a rather nefarious tax, from the masses to those closest to the printing press. J.P. Morgan and his buddies were instrumental in setting up the Federal Reserve in the first place. And you think about what these banks want. They want nations to plunge themselves into debt, and nothing drives up debt quite like a good war, quite like a war on another country. But not just another country, a war on another country that you don't win. A war that goes on and on and on.
$1 trillion a year almost in the United States.
If they can get countries competing into who will go into more debt, like their very survival depends on it, yeah, there can be a lot of money made. And this is one of those things you need to be incredibly careful about taking seriously those who are beating the drums of war. It's one of those tightropes you got to walk because, again, the best deterrent is strength. Simultaneously, you don't want to get dragged into a war.
No, you don't. It's, it is almost impossible. War is almost an inevitability. Look at Thucydides' trap kind of mindset. Look at just the history, but we've never had the level of globalization that we've had now. And the globalization discussion it's one of those ones that needs nuance, because globalization without nationalism is just, it doesn't work. Like, the idea that nations should work together while maintaining their national identity, their national values, all these things, that is a different concept than the globalization that when you talk about the UN, you talk about the Klaus Schwabs, the Davos, Bilderbergs, that's a different kind of globalization, right? Germany and Russia are not likely to go to war with each other because they are interconnected vitally through trade. That doesn't mean Germany and Russia need to have the same culture, need to have the same values and traditions. They get to set that themselves. But I think that, we are in a new era of human interaction, of human society, where it's going to be very interesting, because I think that there is the potential for us to be able to set up our interactions with each other, our trade with each other, in a way that makes it so war can't really happen, because you go to war with one nation, they probably have some vital good that you can't provide yourself.
Wholly disagree. 1360 KHNC.
Hey folks, the Rev here. When the economy collapses, so will society. Martial law will rule, but
Hey folks, the Rev here. The future will be merciless. Prepare yourself now. Come to my urban survival training class. I'll teach you how to shit in the bucket. Just call Kate and see.
Buckaroo, I love you. Just kidding. I can't stand you.
I can't stand you.
Thank you guys for joining us on the live stream, by the way, today. We appreciate it. Get it out there.
It feels like it's been a while.
What, bud?
I said it feels like it's been a while since we were.
Oh, it has been a while, because it's just been hectic in the mornings lately, so we haven't really been able to do it. But
we can't do it when we have guests who are calling in, which happens a lot.
We've got to figure out a way around that. We've got to try to figure out a way. How can we do this?
It's really not anything we can do.
Hey folks, the Rev here. Most of you know I teach a hardcore urban survival class. I'll teach you how to shit in the bucket. But if I had to run from here to the mailbox, I'd probably keel over and die. I need a cigarette.
Oh, man.
Here we go.
I guess we're going to be getting into a debate about war now, Buck.
Love it. Fantastic. So I think there is a pretty good foundation of truth that countries that rely on each other for trade are less likely to go to war. But I think that we have to acknowledge that trade can also be weaponized, right? Something that really hampered our ability to respond when this COVID hysteria first broke out was the fact that we were wholly dependent on China for so many things, right? Including our 80% of our pharmaceutical drugs. The fact that we're wholly dependent on China for our PPE, the lopsided trade, right? If what we supply to them is movies and TV shows, and what they supply to us is all of our medicine and high-end technologies, the way that could be weaponized to produce war, I think is dangerous. I think there are some industries in which, yes, as I'm very free market, I'm very pro-capitalism, but I do think there are certain industries which, for the sake of national security, we should have some level of self-sufficiency, if not exclusively ourselves, between us and our allies.
No, and I understand that fully. That was a big issue, but the argument could probably be made that saved us going to war with China, because if they are found fully responsible for all of this stuff, you can't go to war with the country providing you all the stuff that gets you out of it. And that's not to say it's a good thing, obviously, but
when what they are doing is essentially an act of war upon us.
No, it is.
And you can't even it came out that our leaders could not point out to the fact that this came from China, and they covered it up for months. And even there was significant evidence that not only were they covering it up, they were hastening the pace in which it was spreading around to try to help cover the tracks. They intentionally tried to get it to go up to other places. I mean, they shut down travel from Wuhan to the rest of China, while simultaneously continued letting it go everywhere else. If that's not an act of backstabbery, then I don't know what is. I mean, if that is not in some way an act of biological warfare, I don't know what is. And then meanwhile, our leaders are hamstrung from being able to speak about the fact that this is going on because we're wholly dependent on them, right? The reason the Paris Climate Accords are so weak on China is that solar panels are wholly dependent on rare earth mineral mining from China. Like 90% of the supply chain for solar panels comes from China. And that's why, the United States, who leads the world in the reduction of carbon emissions, needs to be punished, needs to be regulated, needs to be held back. But we're just not going to say a word about China.
Well, the thing is we're still learning as a people. Like, we talk about it as if just because the process had started before we were born, therefore, like, by now we should know. No. Especially this level of globalization is so new to humankind that we're still trying to figure out the best ways to operate an economy, the best ways to protect yourself and mitigate risk, while at the same time encouraging the kind of trade necessary to prevent all-out war in the future and to save lives in the future, and to negate. This is something that, again, humanity has been around for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years, and we have been developing this whole time. Right. And we are at a brand new stage in human development. We went from the hunter-gatherer to the more tribal domesticated food, to the actually starting to build up civilizations, to the actual starting to develop governmental systems. That was over tens of thousands of years. We've been doing this for less than 100. This real mass scale globalization's less than 100 years. And, we're still learning how to do it. But I think in the end, if you can do it right, and right doesn't need to be perfect in this case, but if we can have critical, because it doesn't matter if China has all our pharmaceuticals if we're exporting all our food to them, right? If we're exporting all of their food, they can export all their pharmaceuticals to us, and that's a relationship right there that is completely dependent. Right, that's a relationship that they have to maintain. It's not just about does another country have one of our critical needs. It's about do we have one of theirs. That's what it comes down to. Because if that's how you prevent the war, by both sides having something that is critical to the other side that you can't replace, but you need. That'll prevent you from going to war. But we're not out. We haven't figured it out.
Yeah, and
yet, right?
I
We're
think
still working
our
on it.
biggest problem is not anything China's doing, right? Our biggest
It's what we
problem
did.
is that we put so many taxes and regulations and so much red tape in between us being able to manufacture in a competitive way that we've become dependent on other countries, right?
Yep.
We have decided that we have all these woke leftists who are just like, we need a Green New Deal. We need 90% tax rates. We need these laws and these regulations and these minimum wages and these taxes and these all these environmental regulations and everything. And they say all this. And they think that makes them a moral person.
Yep.
And then they go to Walmart and they buy the cheap crap made in some dingy Chinese factory with no safety standards, with no minimum wage laws, with no workers' rights, with no environmental considerations at all. And they think that if they just virtue signal hard enough, that somehow it will change things. No, these people need to actually take seriously how they're spending their money. If you believe in human rights, if you believe in progressive values, stop spending money on things made in China.
Yeah. Stop spending money. I know it's very difficult too. We've created a problem. How about this? Vote for people who are gonna vote for people whose policies, center around the idea of bringing the manufacturing back. This whole chip crisis that's going on. You know what it's done? We're building chip plants in Phoenix and in Texas, right? We're bringing the process of producing microchips back to America because we realized, oh my gosh, this is terrible. The same thing is happening with pharmaceuticals. I'm pretty sure they're building manufacturing plants here in America to start producing these kinds of things.
Well, hey, if there's a good thing that comes out of crisis, it's if you're able to extract wisdom out of it.
Yeah, and that's
and hopefully, my goodness, hopefully the American people can start extracting some wisdom, myself included, from what's been going on in this world, because I am worried about it.
So we got a question. What is a dependent trade between the U.S. and Russia? In all honesty, that's a great question. We do export a lot of culture. We export a lot of vehicles. Russia buys a lot of American vehicles. We export. There's an importance to the exportation of culture because when you export your culture, you're traditionally exporting your values.
Unfortunately, the Hollywood culture that we're exporting is not rife with values.
Yeah, no, Russia's number one. Russia doesn't really
too much. Russia's biggest
relationship
is on their trade with Europe.
Is on their trade with Europe, especially being a provider of natural gas with Europe, right? And that's why we don't need to worry about Russia that's why we don't really need to worry about it because we have a direct relationship with China. Europe has a direct relationship with Russia on that front, and it's going to be very difficult. Like I said, you already have Germany doing Germany things and kowtowing a little bit to Russia and being like, yeah, we're not going to do anything because we don't want this Nord Stream 2 pipeline getting shut down. Also, Germany doing Germany things. If you are not vaccinated, you're a member of their parliament, you're not allowed to participate in parliament anymore.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So this is the deal with trade between Russia and the United States. Russia's total trade with the United States was $3.29 billion in November of 2021, a change of 66.4% from the same month 1 year ago. The change in exports was 21%, and the change in imports was 79%. Russia ranked number 22 among U.S. trade partners in November. It has ranked 26 for the same month last year. The top three U.S. exports by value in November were civilian aircraft parts, motor vehicle parts, plasma, vaccines, blood. The top three U.S. imports from Russia, also by value, were gasoline, other fuels, oil, semi-finished products of iron, non-alloy steel by tonnage. The top three U.S. exports were wood pulp, not dissolving grade, aluminum waste, and scrap, and motor vehicle parts. The top three U.S. imports, also by tonnage, gasoline, other fuels, basically everything I just told you before.
See, the thing is that in the same way that humans went from killing each other on sight from not being in the same tribe, that just grows and scales as we become in contact with more, right? And now that we're at a global level, the whole reason conflict started or stopped within Europe, right? Within like small countries first, is because tribes realize, you trade with each other, you get goods from each other, it's much better to live in peace. That expands out. Now you have a country that does it. That expands out. Now you have a union of nations. That expands out. What it comes to is that war is a great way to establish power and dominance in a region where trade cannot. But we're at a point where trade can, and we should be trying to make it so that trade does. And globalism with a capital G is wrong, right? Because this idea that there's no independent cultures, we're just one human race and we're all the same exact thing. No, we are one human race, but we are not the same. Nobody is the same. Every individual is different, and that also scales up.
Individuals and communities and countries each deserve to have sovereignty over themselves.
Exactly. And the idea of globalization, I'm a national globalist, if you will, right? I believe that America should interact with the rest of the world in a peaceful way, but that America should take pride in what separates America from the rest of the world, and we should not let other countries encroach upon it, should not let other countries try to destroy the values that made us great. And we should be showing by example why the values of individual sovereignty, why the values of liberty and life are so important and so vital to the success of a healthy nation, because other countries will adopt it willingly if we're not out there using our troops to impose it. That's always been my belief.
But again, I do think there are some industries where that are more valuable than others, and more important to being able to actually enact that sovereignty than others. I do think it's critically important that we lead the way in high-end technology innovations in manufacturing. I think it's critically important that we are self-sufficient when it comes to our energy supply. I think it's not quite as important that we're self-sufficient when it comes to food, but I think some arguments could be made there. I think the best way to be competitive is to have a flexible and dynamic free market with the fewest amount of regulations necessary.
Yeah.
Some regulations, we do want to have some kind of referee. We do want to have some kind of environmental protections. But we need to be competitive, right? If by making ourselves a zero carbon emissions country by 2030 bankrupts us and makes us wholly dependent on China and props up and enriches China, which does not take any of those precautions, then are you really saving the environment, or are you just bankrupting yourselves and handing the torch of global power over to a country who cares far less? Really, I've been saying that. I feel like I've been saying this for quite a while now.
I haven't been listening. Sorry.
If you hold progressive values dear, and by progressive values, if you think social justice is important, if you think environmental justice, all these left-wing talking points, abolishing racism and everything else, you kind of have to be America first.
Yeah.
1360 KHNC.
America first, y'all.
KHNC.
where we bring you
No,
great ideas to take your preps to the next level.
I really
A
do
lot of
truly
radio
believe in
stations
America. I
post
do
about
truly
having
believe
2, 3,
that
4, 500,000 listeners. But what they
we
don't
have the
tell
best
you
values, the
is
best
the
economy,
average
the best
listener
market.
only
We are the
listens
best in
for
the world,
4 minutes.
and
A song plays they don't
we are
like,
living up to our
same
potential.
old boring commentary, or worse yet, as soon as the commercial starts playing, they change the station. Here at 1360 KHNC, our listeners listen longer, a lot longer. We have one of the longest time spent listening in the industry. That means our listeners don't change the dial when the commercial starts playing because they don't want to miss what our hosts have to say next. Advertise with 1360 KHNC and have your message be heard. Call us at 970-587-5003. We also have the best rates in Colorado. 970-587-5003 or 1360khnc.com.
It is not because men have made laws that life, liberty, and property exist. On the contrary, it is because life, liberty, and property existed beforehand that men made laws in the first place. What then is law? It is the collective organization of the individual right to lawful defense and punishing injustice. Frederick Bastiat,
Hi listeners, Jack here. The Hunting and Sportsman Gun Show is Northern Colorado's premier event in 2021. These shows feature dozens of vendors that guarantee the best selection of guns now in Northern Colorado, from the Loveland Outlet Mall to Island Grove Park and Greeley. For show dates, locations, or table reservations, visit peshows.com. That is peshows.com. While you're out, visit Harsh Outdoors at 600 Oak Avenue in Eaton, Colorado. They carry a full line of ATVs, UTVs, mowers, trimmers, sprayers, and chainsaws from Husqvarna, DR, Generac, and EasyGo. Whether you have a half an acre or 1,000, they carry the equipment you need. They always have a full-line gun store with lots of firearms, ammo, safes, and accessories. Check out harshoutdoors.com. That's harshoutdoors.com. Backyard or back 40, Harsh Outdoors has got you covered.
Hello and welcome back to the Liberty Revolt on
1360 KHNC. We are having a great discussion today on war. Why? Why war?
War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
We had someone send in a quote. Nick sent us a quote really quick that I wanted to read. It's from Frederick Bastiat, who is featured on a show quite often. It said, "If goods don't cross borders, soldiers will." Right? If we have nothing going on trade wise with the nation, our soldiers are going to be the next thing that goes in there because there's always every country.
I would say it's inevitable, but I would say it's drastically more likely.
Yeah, I mean, it depends because if a country has natural resources, you want those natural resources. If you've got like tons and tons of rare earth minerals that are going to be necessary for the advancement of society as we move into the microchip age, if the country's unwilling to trade those,
sure would be good to have a great trade relationship with Afghanistan.
Oh my gosh! Well, that's gonna. We all know that one's gonna fail too. People that think that China's just gonna be able to go in there and trade all willy nilly. It's like Afghanistan is beyond tribal, and whoever the Taliban sides with, they're going to people that are attacking the Chinese businesses and everything just because they're not Afghan, right? So we're going to see China have to go into Afghanistan as well, and it's going to be an absolute disaster for them. But what it comes down to is we don't fight big nations. There's a reason why during the entirety of the Cold War we didn't fight Russia one time. We fought proxy wars. We fought, side battles. We fought in the culture, but we never fought boots on ground United States against the Soviet Union. Why? Because mutually assured destruction, globalized trade, and at the end of the day, it's comes down to the fact that when you have these two superpowers going at it with each other, neither one wants to eliminate the other, right? It's not like Russia's goal. It's not like when we talk nuclear war, it's not like Russia's goal would be to, if we can't exist, no one can exist, right? You don't fight the for a leader. No leader wants to fight a war in such a way where his people are going to end up being eliminated for it.
Right, the people that he relies on to parasitically suck the lifeline from.
Yeah. So,
but I will say that, you know, you have to maintain some kind of competitive edge. You have to maintain some kind of you can't let total free trade with countries. I mean, gosh, what am I trying to say here? If you make it uncompetitive for your constituents to work, they're going to be angry, they're going to be bitter, they're going to be hateful.
Yep.
It may foster racism, and you're going to be drumming up the likelihood and willingness to go to war. For example, I think that's largely what happens with our southern border. I think by giving people's no say over who comes in and out of their community, and you regulate industry to some level that it makes it uncompetitive for them to work, or that incentivizes employers to hire undocumented workers, then you are creating a recipe for conflict and racism.
I don't disagree with that. I will say one of the big ones is that democracies don't go to war with each other. It's so far it's held up to be true. Democracies don't go to war with each other, because when you have to vote on war, you got to realize even the most quote unquote supported wars had very little actual support. The Revolutionary War had, like, I think under 15% of our population at the time actually even participated on either side of the Revolutionary War. Democracies don't necessarily go to war with each other. And if you're a democracy and you can't, and you know the nation you're going up against is an autocracy, well, the next option is trade. Countries that are democratic and trade with each other definitely don't go to war. Countries that trade together probably don't go to war, and countries that are democratic probably don't go to war. So, what the goal is the democracy is inevitability. Once people, the more your baseline education level rises within a population group, the more likely democracy becomes, in my opinion, because as people are able to learn and comprehend more of their sovereignty, they want more power within their own lives. They want to have more authority to dictate the course of their own life. And you see it in China.
It's actually interesting because, you know, people talk about how for much of human history, you know, even in the Roman Republic, only certain people, only property owners have the right to vote, things like this. And one of the justifications they made for that, and I'm not saying that I agree with this or disagree with this, this is just what they leveraged as an argument to justify limiting the vote, was that some people were so burdened down by their life responsibilities, right? There used to be a time when women, you know, you didn't have a washing machine where you just tossed your clothes in and 30 minutes later you came and transferred it to the dryer, and then an hour later you came and pulled it out, and that was that. I mean, there used to be a time when household chores took up a tremendous amount of time, and raising children took out, you know, you couldn't just like throw Cocomelon on your TV and let your toddler stare at it for 2 hours.
One of the biggest enablers of women into the workplace was the invention of the at-home appliance. Were the inventions of various appliances, the dishwasher, the laundry machine, birth control. Because they, like you said, they made it so
women's liberation came from capitalism.
Yeah, capitalism was the thing that liberated women, because it brought convenience to the level, like you said, that you no longer were actually legitimately spending 6 to 8 hours of your day just keeping the home in order, meaning that you could only afford to send one person out to work.
but it just the part of the reason they tried to justify the idea that only certain people, such as property owners, had the right to vote was that these are the people that have the time to actually study the issues and to vote in a way that was responsible, to vote in a way where they had some kind of understanding of the ramifications of that choice. And to your point, as people become more educated and as capitalist innovations make our lives easier and allocate more time for us to put into the intellectual endeavors, people are going to want to be able to kind of express those intellectual endeavors in the way we organize our society and we put policy out there.
Exactly. And so you're seeing it in China, right? As over the last 50 years, as China has risen out of, third world status, the people have become more educated. They have a crisis amongst their young people now where they don't want to. Their young people aren't the ones that are trying to go into these slave labor markets, right? Their young people want better jobs. They want better paying jobs. They're doing these lie down things where they just lay in bed all day as a protest to work, because there's a reason why secretly, not so secretly, you're starting to see more things are made in Thailand, more things are made in Vietnam, more things are getting made in Malaysia and the Philippines and stuff like that, because this is what capitalism does. It goes to a country that has nothing, where the labor is going to be insanely cheap because there's no education, there's no baseline, and it slowly builds it up to the point where it has to move again to find that cheap market because it educated the people. We're going to continue with this discussion here on the Liberty Revolt on 1360 KHNC.
The Federal Reserve is in control of our money, but lately control is the last word you would use to describe the Fed. Emergency rate cuts, huge increases in their balance sheet, the constant blowing of bubbles and boom and bust cycles that just leave most of us busted. I'm Joe Jaquin, owner of the Patriot Trading Group, and we have been protecting people's wealth for almost 25 years. Stop playing the Fed's game and get your wealth protected. Call us at 800-951-0592 or visit our website at allamericangold.com.
Hi, this is Steve Perdue, Ramsey Auto Group. My partner, Mike Ramsey, and I, we're at 6310 West 10th Street, Greeley, Colorado. Ramsey.
Well, I appreciate you guys hanging out with us in the live stream. It sure is cool to spend every morning with you. And by the way, hi, Sherry. What's up, girl? I hope you're doing well. I love that you guys are building a little community amongst each other, and that you guys say hi to each other. Man, that makes my day brighter. I think it makes the world a better place. I'm glad that we can all just hang out together, that you guys are a part of the conversation. So definitely keep tuning in and keep hanging out with us. And by the way, the Liberty Revolt is in partnership with Pride Roofing and Construction. I work there. If you're in Colorado and you're wondering about the condition of your roof, or you just want to meet me, give me a call or give me a text, 970-825-9305. I'm going to be at the home show tomorrow, today, Sunday. I'm going to be at the home show down at the Budweiser Event Center, hanging out. So you can just come say hi to your pal Bucky and learn more about what I do over at Pride Roofing. They call it a canvasser. Technically, I'm a lead generator. What's that mean? It just means that I provide a medium between people who need roofing work done and people who will work on the roof. So give me a call, give me a text, 970-825-9305.
Whew. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Liberty Revolt here on 1360 KHNC. And, on the topic of why it is that capitalism leads inevitably to a country abandoning the idea of mass war, it's because that when capitalism gets into a country, it's a process, but the first generation that receives the capitalism usually works in terrible conditions, right? But these terrible conditions come with a benefit. That benefit being significantly higher wages than they've ever seen before. It is almost universally the case that everywhere capitalism goes, no matter how terrible the conditions are at the beginning, it is still better than it was before. We say working for $1 a day, that's slave labor. $1 a day means $365 a year, which in a lot of the countries it ends up going to is 2 to 3 times.
Tremendously beyond that. I mean, if the exchange rate for the dollar, it goes 7 times as far in your country, that $1.25 a day is closer to $9 an hour, which by our standards is
trash,
kind of rough.
Yeah,
but no, it's interesting because you talk about how we need to deregulate our economy. The reason China is growing economically so rapidly is because they opened themselves up to pseudo free market practices. And when I say pseudo free market practices, I mean they deregulated their economy. They let people practice some pseudo form of private property rights, wherein they treat people like they have private property rights until the government decides to step in and exercise their control over it, their physical domination. But they have done everything they possibly can to make it as easy as possible and as profitable as possible to start businesses in China. I mean, and you say that, yeah, we should deregulate our market. We did that. The reason China's getting rich like this, and you will have people on the left go, wow, I guess we'll just start building nets around the factories now. And you're like, well, part of the reason they have nets around the factories is because we made ourselves wholly uncompetitive. And that's the only, so we propped that up. We essentially subsidized that by taxing ourselves out of competition.
Yeah.
And beyond that, the rate at which people have been lifted out of poverty over there. I mean, people are doing that for like a small chapter of their lives, and then they're sending their children to high-end American universities where they're going back and they're innovating and running businesses in China and competing against us.
Yeah. We export our number one export to China right now is their own engineers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're producing engineers at an astonishing rate, and how they're doing that is they're doing whatever it takes to work and get some kind of economic feet on the ground in their country, and then they're sending their students to come to our top universities and get high-end degrees in engineering, and then they go back to China and they compete against us.
Exactly. And because what's going to end up happening with China, obviously, is as the baseline education level rises, so too are the wage demands, so too are the standard of living demands. They are eventually going to price themselves out of the cheap labor market. That's just what's going to happen.
Which is the whole thought behind the Belt and Road Initiative. Is they're transitioning from a manufacturing-based economy to a consumer-based economy, and they need to set up a new manufacturing base. And it's part of why they're investing in African countries.
Yeah, and we've been moving our labor around Southeast Asia, but what needs to be addressed is the fact that I think was it Deng Xiaoping? I forget what his name is. The guy that came before Xi Jinping.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and this is the one thing that I do give the CCP credit for, is that they really do, I think, actually act in the best interest of China, the Chinese people. Whether or not they're taking the correct actions is a different story. But I think having the one party means that they necessarily must act in their country's best interest, because otherwise the country will revolt against them. They don't have to win elections. They have to win consent.
Right. Yeah, a discontent population isn't just going to vote for the other guy and say, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go, Xi Jinping.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so what they've done with the market, rather than the Soviet Union approach where it must be the socialist answer, whether or not it's the better one, he said it doesn't matter if it's a black cat or a white cat that catches a mouse, as long as the mouse is caught. As long as the cat catches the mouse, it doesn't matter which one does it. If capitalism is what is going to prop up our economy, then we're going to move towards a capitalist approach, because we just need to prop up our economy. And so I think that just naturally the Communist Party side of the Chinese Communist Party is going to disappear, and it's just going to be an autocratic, almost Singapore-esque style authoritarian government, where they have free market principles. There's a level of liberty, but there is an authoritarian government at the top. Because how long can you call them communist when there's very little actual communist practices going on?
But some actual communism is the foundation of their economy. For example, all energy, water, salt, steel, these are all completely government controlled. industries.
don't
But
deny that.
essentially how they do it is they kind of do it in the same way that the United States was able to subsidize the production of vaccines. They utilize their money to pay private people to run these industries.
Yeah, I mean, what's going to
And
end
they
up
make it extraordinarily lucrative for people to run those industries for them.
what's going to end up biting them in the butt is the evil things that they're performing. But the fact of the matter is that the Chinese people, the way the American value is founded on individual liberty and sovereignty is the same way the Chinese values are founded on collective action. The whole point of Confucianism, which was which is basically the guiding principle of their country for thousands of years, is the idea of being the strong junta for the rest of your country, being the strong individual for the collective good. And they have, so the fact of the matter is that there's just that difference between the two of us. One is collective, one is individual based.
Well, gosh, it's almost two sides of the same
Yeah.
coin. Because once you acknowledge that the collective is a collective of what? It's collective of individuals,
yes.
Right? And when you strengthen individuals and you give individuals more sovereignty, then the whole has more sovereignty and more strength.
Yeah.
But it is kind of like a cultural thing where they're very concerned with, their personal honor is connected to the honor of their family, their honor of their community, their honor of their country.
And that used to be a guiding principle in America and in Western culture. It was all about honor. I don't want to bring dishonor to my family's name. That's one of the things that we've lost. That is one of the most significant. I think Jordan Peterson talks about it quite a bit. The idea of honor, the idea of societal pressures outside of the government that are within us,
driving you to act in a way.
Yeah, that is responsible, and we've kind of lost that. And I think it's one of the things that we really need to get back. Liberty Revolt 1360 KHNC.
Right, we're not sure if the fireplace is efficient. Call Budget Flame at 97.
I hope you guys are enjoying the show. I hope you guys are getting some value out of this. Let me know. Let me know in the comment section what you think. I guess my message today and what I might try to do with this final segment of today's show is talk about how we need to take personal responsibility for living in a responsible and honorable, take responsibility for being responsible. But I think you guys know what I'm trying to say. Is if we're not compelled by government to act responsibly, then we need to be self-compelled. And how do we instill that? Well, I think it starts with the family. It starts with family education. That's why family is so important, and why I would not want to see what has been the ramifications of the welfare state on many in this country become the standard by which all of us live our lives. So I think that's where I'm going to go. Right on, Brett. Man, thank you so much. I do really appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's cool to see the conversations that people have, and it does make the radio experience a lot cooler when you can share that experience with other people. And some of the comments are hilarious. Some of the people who I think leave the greatest comments are the people that I would want to encourage the least, but it is amusing. But I think one of the things we're kind of alluding to here, and let me know your thoughts on this, is that if we do not have the government compelling us to behave responsibly, then it is on us to self-compel ourselves and to spread a culture between ourselves and the next generation that we're raising up to keep these values in mind, because these values of living in a way that benefits more than just yourself is critical to the success of a civilization. And I think that it's not something that socialism promotes. Although the people who are socialists, they just believe that you can foster these ideas through government compulsion. But I think by the use of force, you have eliminated any good that you're going to do. And what kind of people are going to rise to the top in a system that revolves around the implementation of force? It's going to be the people who are most willing and most eager to rule by compelling people by compulsion and force. It's on us to honor our family, to honor our country, and to live in a way that honors ourselves. I mean, seriously, get dressed in decent clothes, present yourself well, not out of a sense of self-importance, but out of a sense of respect for others, right? Why do you dress nice when you go to work? It's not because you are trying to say that I am more important, but the message you're trying to convey is that you, the person I'm serving, is important to me, and it's important to me that I present myself professionally.
Yeah.
And these are things we need to expand. I don't know about you, but it does discourage me when I go to the grocery store and I see full-grown adult men who look like they haven't gotten a haircut or showered in months, that stink, that are stumbling around in their Pokemon Go pajamas. It is kind of disheartening.
I feel like you're judging me because I wear sweats.
I mean, this isn't intended to be a jab at Kevin, but seriously, Kevin, show some respect. Take a shower. Put some nice clothes on.
You see, like,
I wear your jacket.
But no, I get what you're saying though, because like this, it's almost kind of in a way disrespectful to go out and say, I care so little about what you think of me, I'm just going to go around in my Pokemon Go stuff. It's like, I don't want you to care about what other people think about you. You should care about yourself enough that you want to present yourself in such a way where it's like, look, this is, I'm functional, I'm a contributor, and I'm going to present myself as such. And we should all be striving to be those kinds of members of our community where like people look at us and they go, yeah, that's a good example of someone who's contributing to his community. Whether or not you do volunteer or charity work, that's not what I'm talking about. You being the best version of you is the best way you can contribute to your community. And if that is through volunteer and charity work, more power to you. But if that's through going to work every day, creating a good work environment, treating your employees right, making sure that when they go home at night, they feel good about the work they've accomplished that day, that is also a tremendous boon to the economy or to the community.
Absolutely. And just, something I heard the other day, that you have an impact on average. The average person has an impact on 40,000 people around them every single day. And what kind of impacts do you want to have? Right. And it's not that I have a problem with Pokemon Go, right? It's if you are looking good in your Pokemon Go stuff, great, man. But the way you present yourself sets the tone for people's around you. You have a much stronger impact on others than you might believe. So take responsibility for that, take honor in that, and take it seriously. You're listening to Liberty Revolt 1360 KHNC.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Hey folks, the Rev here. Most of you know I teach a hardcore.
Thank y'all so much for joining on the live stream today. We appreciate it. We'll try to let you know beforehand when I'm coming on next time so you guys can have a little bit more warning. But thank you guys so much for joining the live stream, and we love having you here. See you next week, folks.
See you guys.